the only time it makes sense for somebody to steal from a church is an employee at Church's Chicken. You know, they work at Church's Chicken. They probably need some more money. So, they probably gonna go on that register and do their thing. Life happens. That's the only type of church, that's justified in my eyes, Church's Chicken. You work at Church's Chicken, life probably kicking your ass. So, you need some fun. So, you gonna tap into some criminal activity. I understand that. I can understand that. But when you a pastor and you at an actual church, that's a pastor at a church.
First on 48, federal court documents obtained by WAFF show a former Huntsville pastor is going to plead guilty to federal wire fraud charges after he spent hundreds of thousands of church dollars on luxury items for himself.
You make, decent money being a pastor. I don't know how much money pastors make, but they live nice, most of them. So you stole from a church, your church, that's closed down now. Over $75,000 worth of cars, thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. You paid off your credit card debt. You paid off your mother's mortgage. You tapped into stealing from the church to help your mom out. I can kind of respect that.
Court documents say he bought a $30,000 Audi and $45,000 GMC SUV with the church's money during this time. They also say Davis used the ANWA church's fund to pay off over $100,000 of his own credit card debt. Court documents say some of the purchases on that credit card include a $4,900 purchase from Louis Vuitton and more than $18,000 in jewelry. The documents also say he used the church's money to pay his mother's mortgage.
Did the mama know how her mortgage was getting paid off? She probably didn't. Who knows? But yeah, you a pastor in Alabama, a state that's a part of the Bible Belt. Alabama is a part of the Bible Belt. You over there. You over there with it. You tapped into some criminal activity in Alabama, the Bible Belt, and that it's not looking good. It's not looking good. The whole thing should have been thought about more. I don't understand people that decides to tap into church embezzlement. Like, if you decide to tap into church embezzlement, you might as well just go ahead and just find another way to steal money. You feel me? Because why is you focused on the church for? Because that's just a terrible look. Because when you get caught up, I'd rather be a bank robber. I'd rather be a bank robber than church embezzlement. Hey man, he stole from a bank. Hey, yeah, I stole from a bank. I'd rather say that than I stole from a church. That's just pathetic. You stole from a church, dog. Your church. These people, they coming up here every Sunday, and probably Wednesday or Thursday nights, and they looking at you, to deliver that word, to stick it, to guide them through life, tell them what they need to do, how they need to be living. You feel me? They putting that trust in you. That's the trust they put in you, man. And you stole from them people. Dang, man, that's just crazy, dog. You stole from a church, man. And when I really looked into it, I was like, dang, dog. This is the main pastor, the leading pastor. This was the main guy, the main character. And that's what I find funny. Usually with church embezzlement, most cases that I've seen, is usually like a church employee, that has access to the money, like the accountant or whatever like that. That's what I'm used to seeing. I never seen, I probably have seen, who knows, I probably have scene. But this is one of the first time I'm seeing like the main character be the guy.
In addition to the wire fraud charges, Davis is going to plead guilty to filing a false tax return. Court documents show in 2021, Davis filed a false tax return stating he made around $138,000 in 2020, but he knew he received more than that. Court records show Davis has signed a plea agreement, pledging to plead guilty to federal wire fraud and filing a false tax return. As part of the agreement, he will have to pay back over $400,000 to the church and another $100,000 back to the IRS. He is also facing up to 23 years in prison across all charges.
Like, you trash at crime when you the overseer of the other money and you still got caught. He the head guy. You the pastor. And he still got that's just crazy to me. You the overseer of this moolah and you still got caught. Who was cooking your books? You need to check your bookkeeper. They probably set you up for failure because you the pastor, dog. You the I don't know how, the chain of command goes in churches. I don't know how that goes. But from my understanding, the pastor is the main guy. He's stepping on that stage and he giving the word. He's giving the word. You feel me? So I would like to think that if he's giving the word, overseeing the people, and these people are passing around a collection plate, and that collection plate is going somewhere in the back. I like to think that he has control of that situation. These people woke up in the morning. They came to your church to give you money. And you got caught misusing that money. Like, dang, like I don't really know like the meat and potatoes behind, getting caught behind that. But just in hindsight, that's just crazy to me. You feel me? You the CEO of this company and you got caught robbing the company. Like how does that happen? How does the CEO get caught? Like I'm like, do y'all see what I mean when I say that? Like, you the overseer, and it's like it's just absolutely insane. And it's like he got caught up buying like Louis Vuitton, like Louis Vuitton and cars and jewelry, and your mom's mortgage. You ain't really do it big like that. You ain't really do it big like that. The jewelry and the cars. You feel me? Like who was cooking those books? I just feel like, dang, dog. How? You got caught up stealing from your own church. That's like me. That's like me getting caught stealing this money right here. That's like me taking this money and putting it in my pocket, and I get federally charged for that. That's what that is. You feel me? I'm just trying to understand because I don't understand. You got caught in the Bible Belt. Let that sink in, dog. I don't think y'all really understand this. Like me being from the South. They take church real serious down here now. They take it serious. And I like to think that they, in Alabama, they country as hell in Alabama. And, it's the Bible Belt. You got country black people living in the Bible Belt. Like, that's just crazy. They about to stick it to you, dog. I think they said he facing like 23 years. 23 years now. 23 years. That's how serious they take embezzlement in the Bible Belt. They don't play about that. 23 years. I ain't never heard of a charge, like with wire fraud and, stealing money and scamming and stuff. I thought, people were probably looking at, 5 to 10 years, around that range. 23 years? If it's 23 years, then that means they attaching more like charges, because, people trusted this man and it's in the Bible Belt. And, so, yeah. yeah, man, you got caught up, dog. So it's wild. It's just wild to me, man. You got caught in the Bible Belt, and that's just all I got to say about that.